Hello folks, what an absolute joy and delight to be able to speak to you today. We're still relatively near the beginning of 2021, and we're hoping and praying for God's best and God's blessing on us all, especially in light of the challenging year that we've just left behind. I've got a question to ask you at the start of our Word on Wednesday. I wonder, would you consider yourself to be a decision maker or a ditherer? We know the distinction of the terms. A decision maker will be someone who's decisive. They know the choices that are before them and they'll go ahead and make their choice. A ditherer, on the other hand, they're not quite sure and they like to take their time. I remember reading the story of Ronald Reagan when he was a young lad and his aunt took him into a local shoe store. And there was two pairs of shoes that captured young Reagan's attention, a pair that had round toes and a pair that had square toes. I remember as a young lad we had DMs, small sizes would be square toe, and when you were a bit older you would go to round toe and feel that bit older and more grown up. Anyway, Ronald Reagan just didn't know how or what pair of shoes to choose. He was struggling. He couldn't make a decision. He dithered, and so they left it, and his aunt took him back into the store a couple of days later, and you'll never guess what, he was in the same position. He just couldn't make a decision, and the storekeeper said, just come back tomorrow. So they did, and on the counter there was a box with a pair of shoes in it, and when Ronald Reagan opened it he was shocked to see one shoe that was round-toed and the other one that was square-toed. And his aunt told him, Ronald, if you don't make decisions, then other people will make them for you, just as this storekeeper has made for you. And he learned a lesson that day that lived with him throughout his life, that he needed to be decisive. Another US President, Roosevelt, he said, our lives aren't really made up of the words we speak, but more so the choices we make. And the choices that we make are our responsibility, and so the direction of our lives today and in the future are determined by us, not by others, not even by other people and their words and opinions. And so I want to share with you three very brief biblical situations where we have God's people confronted with a choice to make, a decision to make. First of all, we have Joshua, who has the whole nation of Israel before him. They're about to enter the promised land, and God's people hadn't fared well in the wilderness. They'd made decisions that had taken them away from God. And as a result of that, Joshua said to them, if serving God is undesirable to you, then make your choice. But you need to choose this day who you're going to serve. And I have to say, I find it remarkable that God would say to his people, if you don't want to know me, if you don't want to follow me, then that's fine. If it's not desirable, just make your choice. But in that context, Joshua stood up and said, but as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. I wonder, do you have the courage to make that decision, to stand with that conviction today? We then have the children of Israel in Elijah's day, and they're in a similar situation. They've made bad choices, wrong decisions, and it's led to them to be in a wayward position. And God has Elijah stand before them, and he asks him this question, how long will you waver between two opinions? And we see a challenge when it comes to decision making, especially in relation to God, that we have other people's voices and opinions that will affect us, and we've got to be very careful of that. And I'm just mindful that 2020 was a difficult year, and I'm speaking to those who've maybe never made the decision for Jesus, and this is the time, this is the hour. But I'm also aware that there's many believers who in 2020 really struggled, and we're not in the place where we were or where we want to be with God. Maybe we've disconnected from God, maybe we've disconnected from church, maybe we have other voices and opinions trying to tell us that God and church are no longer important. And in the same way that Joshua said, choose this day, and Elijah said, how long will you waver between two opinions? Elijah said, if the Lord is God, serve him, follow him. And the last biblical account of making a choice and a decision I want to leave you with is Jesus himself. He had his disciples in front of him, and he asked them a general question first of all. Who do people say that I am? And they said, some say Elijah, some say John the Baptist, maybe one of the prophets. There was a diversity of opinion, just as there is today. But then Jesus made it personal. Okay, you've told me what the world thinks of me, but what about you? Who do you say that I am? Probably the most important question anyone can ever be asked. Who do you say that I am? Can I ask you, what's your response to that question today? I hope, like Peter, you'll be able to say, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. But if you can't, then at the beginning of 2021, make the right choice. Make a decision. Don't waver among different opinions. Make a decision. Make a choice today. Just decide for Jesus and decide to follow him. And if you're going to do that for the first time, this will be the best year of your life. And if we've lost our way, then let's make the right decision today, as the children of Israel did in Joshua's day and in Elijah's day. And so to encourage you in making a right decision about God, to stop dithering, let me read to you just some lines from a familiar chorus that we sometimes sing in the church. Let it be your testimony, even as I pray that it's mine. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back, no turning back. The world behind me, the cross before me. No turning back, no turning back. Though none go with me, still I will follow. No turning back, no turning back. And now the decision, the choice that's yours. Will you decide now to follow Jesus? No turning back, no turning back. I'm standing here at the War Memorial in Stornoway. You can see the town behind me. It's dusk. It's actually the shortest day of the year. Would you believe that? Towards the end of 2020. And the darkness is coming in, and Jesus would say to you, you're only going to have the light a little bit longer. Choose me when you have the light before days of darkness overtake you. So today, for the first time, or maybe recommitting, let's decide for Jesus. Let's follow him. Let's choose him.
I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back, no turning back. The world behind me, the cross before. Yes, the world behind me, the cross before me. The world behind me, the cross before